Hi everyone, welcome to today's Microsoft Remote Learning webinar, Discover O365 in Teams. I'm Matthew Henderson. With me again, we've got Cindy Dennison and Trudy Hughes. We are Technology Adoption Specialists with ICT Services in the Department for Education. If you missed yesterday's session, we are recording all of this week's webinars for those who can't tune in live, or if you do want to watch it back at your own pace. They'll be available through the EDIT portal. Just search for Remote Learning Webinars. Please send your questions through in the Q&A section of the event, and we'll post answers afterwards with the video of the session in EDIT. We'll also add the slides from all of the sessions as they become available. Okay, now it's over to Troy Waller, Learning Delivery Specialist and Accessibility Lead at Microsoft Education Australia.
Apologies, you're probably wondering what the hell was going on then, and I was on mute the whole time. Luckily for me, I got a message saying, how about you turn yourself off mute? So my name's Troy. I'm a learning delivery specialist from Microsoft. I get to travel around the country, specifically southern states, and I spent a lot of time in Adelaide and South Australia working with teachers like yourselves and turning them on to Office 365 and all the great things that you can do in that space. So this is the second of 4 webinars that we have planned. We may in fact have some more as as demand sort of dictates. It's exciting to look, and we've got 250 teachers or educators logged into the workshops today. So that's really exciting. So welcome everyone. So I do want to stress again that we already have some recordings available for you, and also there will be the slides available for you as well. So you'll be able to find those, and maybe at the end we'll remind you where those are able to be discovered by you. But please, spread the word, get it out to your teachers, get it out to colleagues, school leaders, everybody you can, because with the remote learning on the horizon for us as teachers, it's really important that we be able to deliver the best we can to our students. All right, so enough intro from me, I guess. I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey today, and we're going to have a look at what we can do in Office 365. I will also say, just like you, I am work from home. And being work from home means that I have children, I have dogs, and I have lots of noises. So if you think this is going to be like television, please don't, because this is real world and I can already hear my dog starting to make noises behind me. Anyway, enough apologies before anything bad has happened. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to first look at the Microsoft Educator Community, which is our online portal. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to talk to you about the difference between Office and Office 365. They certainly talk to each other, but they are different. I'm going to show you some free Office software, and the reason I put a question mark there is because it's not really free. It's just the department has paid for it for you, but it's free to you. Then we're going to log into Office 365 and have a bit of an overview of Office 365. We're going to talk about OneDrive, and then we're going to look at how all this comes back into Teams, right? So Teams. Then we'll play with next steps, and we'll end. As we go through this today, I'm going to try to remember to stop from time to time and field some questions, but we are going to limit the questions at this point anyway. When I stop, the questions need to be questions specifically about what we've covered already, right? So we don't want to be asking questions that are complete tangent. We can certainly do that at the end, but just as we start to field these questions, I'll just remind you to throw the questions that are relevant to what we're sort of working on at this moment. Do you like that? That's called classroom management. All right. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is education.microsoft.com, education.microsoft.com. Now, this is the Microsoft Educator Center. It is our online PD portal. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up a browser now, and I'm going to take us over to that website, education.microsoft.com. Now, please notice there's no www in front. People get stuck on that all the time. So this is our online portal. Now, when you sign into this, you sign in using your LearnLink email address and password, your normal LearnLink email address and password. It's already synced up, and so it will recognize you and it will bring you in to the Educator Centre. Now, the reason why that's important is because it will keep a record of all the professional development that you do in this website. And that's also important because if you get audited by the TRB, God help you, or you need to demonstrate your professional learning to someone else, this will actually keep a record of everything that you do, and you have a transcript that you can print off or a PDF and email to people. All right. Now, the other thing that's really cool about this, and I know when I work in South Australia, people are scurrying for certificates all the time. Hey, how do I get my certificate for your PD? This is recognised by the TRB. Okay, so the hours that you do in here is recognised by the TRB, which means you don't have to be, jumping in the car, not that you can at the moment, but going across town and doing some sort of, PD. You can actually do it online and it will count. All right, and so you can just print off the audit sheet and it will show, and you're able to demonstrate that to the TRB. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a look through what we've got in here. So we have the Explore Courses page, and I'll just show you here when we browse courses down here, we have the ability to search, okay, but it will categorize courses that you've not started, courses that you're in progress, and courses that you've actually completed, right? And that's how it'll bring them up. But if we wanted to look for something on, say, Office 365, we just start typing in that and it automatically shows us all the courses that are relevant to Office 365, right? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to sort of be skimming across the top of Office 365, but you may want to find out more specifically about Office 365, and that's what you can do. Or, for example, if you were interested in tomorrow's workshop, which is OneNote, there's a lot of courses specifically around OneNote as well. But we can also look at some of those from a pedagogical perspective. So we might want to look at courses that have something to do with assessment, for example, and I need to be able to spell assessment for it to work, but these are all our courses that are specifically tied to assessment. All right, and there's a great one there called Microsoft Forms Creating Authentic Assessments, great for remote delivery. I'd want to stress that to you. Anyway, so these are our courses. All right, now, for example, if I did jump into the Microsoft Forms course, you can see here it's a 1-hour course. I can come and go as many times as I want to this course and do it slowly over a period of time, but at the end of it, in terms of what I will be recognised for, is a 1 hour's worth of PD, even if I did that over 4 days, or even if I did it in 15 minutes. Okay, so yeah, again, it will keep a record of what you've done. So once you started that course, you'd see there's videos, there's text, there's all kinds of stuff, really interactive, really very good. I'm not just saying that because I'm branded by Microsoft. It's an excellent portal for you to explore not just remote learning, but also, pedagogy in general and using technology. Now, those are our courses. The second thing that we've got in here is what's called a learning path. All right. Now, learning paths are groups of courses that have been put together. All right. So I'll just show you this one, for example, this one here, the 21st Century Learning Design. Look at this, 20 hours worth of PD. So we've partnered with the University of Dublin there, and there's a series of courses that come together to build this 20 hours worth of PD. So you would get credit for doing each of one of these individual courses, but at the same time, you'd also get credit for doing the whole stream as well. So again, I want to stress the stuff in here is really good. But what I want to draw your attention to is if I type in Office, if I type up here and type Office 365, there's a couple of courses here, getting started with Office 365 and Windows. That's a learning path, one for leaders, leveling up. But the one I want to draw your attention to is this one here, Office 365 Teacher Academy. So it's called the Office 365 Teacher Academy. Look at this, it's 12 hours worth of PD. Again, 12 hours worth of PD. You can almost meet your requirements for the year just doing this. But you can see all these different courses down here that all come together. You would be an absolute gun by the time you'd finish this. So I do want to recommend that as a follow-up to today's workshop. Now, the other thing that we need to look at is the achievements as well. So your profile, that's where you find your list of achievements, you find your audit sheet and all those kinds of things. All right, so that's the Microsoft Educator Community, Educator Center, excuse me, education.microsoft.com. Again, we will make these slides available to you, but if you haven't already jumped in and bookmarked that, you might want to do that. Okay, so I think what I might do is I might actually jump back to that slide and just sort of field some questions around the Educator Centre and what we've done so far. So I might ask the department folks to come off mute and feed me any questions.
No questions so far on the Education Centre.
Okay, cool. All right, well, in that case, let's keep moving then. Okay, so let's talk now about Office. So if I had all you guys, and let me see how many, look at that, we've got 340 of you logged in, which is exciting. If I had all 340 of you in a room and I said, put up your hand if you use Office on a regular basis, Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc., I know that almost everybody in the room would put up their hands. And we've got something like a 90-something% saturation rate of the use of Office in business around the world and in Australia. And we know anecdotally that everybody uses Office. Okay, now Microsoft Office gets released every 3 years. So we had Office 2013, Office 2016, Office 2019. And this version of Office doesn't mature. And what I mean by that is when it's released, and just to confuse us, 2019 was released in 2018, but when it's released, it doesn't get any feature updates. It only gets sort of, back-end security and, bug fixes and things like that. So if you're using, for example, Office 2016, which is probably what a lot of you are, and sometimes I go to South Australian schools and people are even using Office 2013, which is, Office 2013 came out in 2012. It's an 8-year-old version of Office, or even 2016, which came out in 2015, is a 5-year-old version of Office. Office 2019 is the same. Okay, so it came out in 2018 and it hasn't matured ever since. Now, at the same time, though, we've got what's called Office 365, and Office 365 lives in the cloud. All right, and we're going to explore that today. We're going to have a look at, Office 365, and I hope by the end of this session, you're going to be able to really articulate the difference between Office installed down on our machine and Office 365, which lives in the cloud. So I just want to stress to you that Office as a software installed in our machine, we get it as software. Once upon a time, we got it on discs, and then later we got it on CDs and DVDs, and we would install that onto our machine. Now it just magically appears on our machine being imaged by someone. So that's installed, the full installation apps down on our machine. But up here in the cloud, we've got this other version. So this goes through our browsers, right? And it doesn't matter whether on our laptop or on our PC or our Mac or on our phone or on our iPads, we're able to access that through the cloud. And that's called Office 365. Now, where we have the advantage is Office 365 in the cloud talks to and works really well with Office down here. All right, so Office 365 lives up in the cloud, so think of it as up, and Office 2019 is installed down on our machine, so think of it as down. Now, just to make things a little bit more confusing, but it's actually really important, is the department has purchased for every student and every teacher a version of this fully installed Office called Office 365 Pro Plus. Now, the difference between this version and this version is that this one, 365 Pro Plus, this one gets feature updates, which means when you're using Office 365 Pro Plus, you've got the latest, greatest, best version of Office that's out there. Okay, so already 365 Pro Plus has left Office 2019 behind. It's already coming up on 2 years older. And so that means it's got a lot more features and, the other thing to remember too is because the feature updates are incremental, you're not hit with the shock of a whole new version of Office. Instead, it just slowly creeps up, and you just get used to these small little changes. But where it gets even better is that the department has purchased for every student and every teacher 5 free copies of this Office 365 Pro Plus. So what that means is you can install Office 365 Pro Plus onto your work machine, but you've got 4 copies left over. So that means you can put it on your home machine, you can share it with family members, you're not breaking any of our rules or the department rules to share that software with your family members. So we're not talking about sharing our Office 365 access, which is our, needs a username and password. We're just talking about sharing that software. All right, so you get 5 free copies and it can go on your PC and your Mac. All right, but in a moment, I'm going to show you how to access that. So maybe we'll stop there and I'll just field any questions about Office 365 and Office 365 Pro Plus.
Okay, the only question that came up was the achievements from yesterday. Talking about yesterday's course not being on there, does that take time to update?
So yesterday's online course, no, you won't get any recognition for doing the online course. Sorry, the webinars. It's only going to record the online courses that you do directly through the website.
Thanks, Troy.
No worries. Okay, so let's look then at signing in. So when we sign into Office, and I'll tell you about where to go to sign in, but I just want to stress that you just use your LearnLink ID. That is your normal LearnLink email address, your ID at schools.sa.edu.au, and then your usual LearnLink password as well. It's already been synced. The department has set this up for you, so you can just go straight in. Now, where do we go in? We go into office.com, www.office.com. So when you come into office.com, you click on the sign in link and it'll become very clear to you when you go to that page for the first time. Then you just add in your normal sign in details and you'll come in. Now, what I want to point out to you, can you see here where it says install Office? This is where we go to get our 5 free copies. And what I mean by that is if I'm on a machine, my laptop right now, and I come to this website, when I click on, after I've been logged in, when I click on install Office over here, then I will be given instructions on how to install that onto the machine that I'm on. So if you want to install that onto your home machine, or you want to install it onto a partner's machine or one of your kids' machines, that's fine, you can do that too. But just remember, you need to be on their machine, log in, install the software, and then log out. And the software will remain, but none of your credentials will remain on that machine. All right, so keep that in mind. But as long as the students have a school's email address, a LearnLink email address, or a member of staff, then this is open to everybody. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take you in and I'm going to show you the start page of office.com. All right, so this is what it looks like for me. Okay, when I sign in, but I've already made some changes and bits and pieces, so you can go in and make changes to yours as well. But I just want to show you first and foremost, we've got this little settings wheel up here. Okay, and when we click on the settings wheel, we get a drop down and we've got our themes, and you can see here where it says view all. Now this is really good, not only for us as teachers, but it's really nice for the students as well to be able to personalize their Office 365 start page. So the ones with the stars, they're sort of quite big banners, and then the ones without are sort of narrow ones as well. So you can pick something that you like and you can set that up, and you can also steer your students to it. It's a lot of fun, and as I said, it's really nice to personalize that space for them. Okay, so that's what we do there. Now, the other thing you can do when you scroll down is you can actually set it to dark mode, right, which is going to save your battery, and it's also going to be nicer on your eyes, especially at night. So go in there, have a bit of a play around with that and set that up. Now, I might just leave that one as it is and just remind you again that this here, install Office, when I click on that, and then if I was to click on that, that would install my Office 365 Pro Plus onto my machine. If you're running 2016, it will install it right over the top. There's nothing else you need to do. But if you do hit an error message, you may want to uninstall your current version of Office and then do this and install this one. Okay, so if you hit an error message, if you're really worried about it, reach out to your techie in your school and get their support around installing this. Another thing I want to share with you is when we're in Office, we have this thing here called the App Launcher. So no matter where we are in Office, the App Launcher will exist. Now, I'm not using Chrome, but many of you will be, and you'll find that your Google App Launcher will sit up here in the actual browser, but underneath will be your Office 365 App Launcher, but only when you're in the Office 365 space. But what it means is when I click on this, you can see here I've got a list of apps and some of my most recent documents, but can you see here it says all apps? When I click on that, I get a drop down of a whole heap more apps that are actually available to me, right? And these have all been made available by the department. So some of these you will never use, right? You'll look at that and go, I have no idea what it is, and it's never going to be relevant to you. But many of these you already use, okay? So things like Outlook and Excel and hopefully, you know, Word and OneDrive and OneNote, etc. But there's others that you're going to learn about as we go through today. So the list here, these are not, this is not an exhaustive list of your Office 365 apps. It's just some of them and probably the ones that you're going to use the most. Now, you all know Word, okay? We're going to get in and have a bit of a play with that in a minute, but there's online versions of Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams, etc. These are all in the cloud. They don't need to be installed on my machine, okay? But these are all cloud-based versions of my apps. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into Word Online. So I just click on that. I'm going to start a new blank document. And if you're using Office 365 Pro Plus, this is going to look very familiar to you. If you're using an older version of Word, it might look somewhat different, but still, it's still Word. And if you know how to use Word, then you'll know how to use Word Online. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do with Word Online is I'm going to create a document. I'm going to call it Webinar to DfE, and then I hit enter, and you notice it's auto save. Okay, so we're not having to find the save button and save things when we're in the online versions. It's all auto save. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually insert a table just like I do in Word. Really, really simple. I'm going to put a nice table in there like that, and I'm now going to share this document. I'm going to share it out to people that I want to come and work in this space. So what I do is I click on share, which is that little button up there, and then it asks me what sort of settings I want to have, right? So I want to make sure that I'm allowing this to edit, okay? I can also block the download so that in case I don't want versions of this file being downloaded and running around. But you can see I'm not able to share it with anyone. I'm only allowed to share it with people in the Department for Education South Australia. Okay, so I can't externally share to friends, family, or people in other independent or Catholic sectors. I can only share with people inside the department. I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to start to look for some people that I know are in here today. So I'm going to look for Cindy Dennison. And Cindy, I'm going to get you to come off mute and tell me what your email address is. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. It's Cindy.Dennison with 2 N's, 915.
915 at schools. Oops, excuse me. .sa.edu.au. Okay, and then I find her there. All right, now I think it's because of my slow internet that it's not finding her by name, but it should usually find her just by name. So I'm going to throw in there, and then also I'm going to get Trudy, who's also going to tell me her email address.
Yep, it's trudy.hughes433.
Oh, sorry, Trudy.hughes433. Oh, not highs. Yep, at schools.sa.edu.au. Okay, so I'm going to put those two ladies into my document, and then I'm going to hit send. Now, they will actually be sent an email and also a notification inviting them to this document, right? So we'll give them a moment to find that, and then they're going to come into this document because I've shared it with them. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a space for Trudy up here. I'm going to create a space for Cindy, and I'm going to create a space for myself. Right now, as they come into the document and they start typing, what I'm going to get them to do is I'm going to get them to write their 5 favorite foods to eat over here, and then their 5 favorite holiday destinations down here. And as they start to do that, it'll start to appear on our document. So I'm going to start to put my favorite foods to eat. Are you guys okay with that? Did you get that notification?
It's just not come through yet, Troy.
Okay, we'll give it a moment. So you can see there, I enjoy my pizza and my nachos. Now, I did type your email addresses incorrectly, didn't I? Yeah, we did because we saw them. All right, so hopefully again, because of my poor internet, it might be a little bit slow, but as I start to type in my space and the things that I want within my space, they will eventually be able to do that as well. And what's going to happen is I will be able to see their typing in real time. And I'll also be able to see little flags which will come up on the screen, and those little flags will show me who is typing at what point in that document. And so we all get to share that, and we all get to be on the document at the same time. So those of you that have used Google Docs, this is not going to be anything new to you. It's the same kind of experience. So how'd you go, ladies? Did it come through?
Yep, just editing now.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to let them start to appear in here. So here we go. So Trudy is now inside the document. So here we go. So as she's typing, you can see if I hover over her flag, I get to see her name. And I can see what she's doing in real time. Now for her, at the same time, she's seeing what I'm doing in real time. So I'm going to put my holiday destinations here. I like to go to Asia. I know Asia is not a country, but yeah, she's going to be seeing what I'm doing in real time. I'm going to be seeing what she's doing in real time. And then if Cindy was coming into the document, she'd have the same experience. Now, can you see this little button up here where it says open in the desktop app? Because not everything that I want that I'm used to Word doing can be done in the online version. So if I was to click that button, it would open this document seamlessly in the full version of Word, and I can continue to work with her, but down in my desktop version. So if you want that sense of immediacy, seeing what each other are doing, then definitely, and Trudy, I'll get you to keep typing away, just throw some more of your favorite holiday destinations and food in there. But as if we want that sense of immediacy, then it will definitely happen better through the online version than it will down in the desktop app, but we can still collaborate in there as well. Okay, very good. I hope that makes sense to you. So let's talk now. Actually, I'll stop and I'll see if there's any questions that we need to field.
Yeah, Troy, just two here. So one of them was about the license. So how long is the license for? So for example, if I leave the department, do I lose access to Office 365?
Exactly right. So the license lasts as long as you have an account with the department. So once that account is closed, then you will start to receive notifications saying that this software needs to be updated with a new account. And if you're not able to do that, then it will be deactivated on those machines.
Thanks. And another one, we got quite a few actually asking about Publisher and whether that's available in Office 365.
No, it's not. And I don't think it's part of the department's license, although they may have another additional license for Publisher. But basically what we're doing really is moving on to a sort of a paperless environment. So it's not standard to the version of Office that the department has made available to you.
Yep, perfect. Another question we just got in, I think I can answer this, but I'll ask you anyway. Can a teacher share a document with students to work on it at the same time?
Well, I'll let you answer that.
I think, yes, you can. So just as Troy demonstrated with me and Trudy, unfortunately, I never got the email, but yes, you can work on it together.
Yep, great. Okay. All right, excellent. So let's keep moving, shall we? In terms of OneDrive, OneDrive is your storage space in the cloud. Right. So as it says there, every Office file you've ever created now has the potential to be collaborative. So you can actually store your own files in OneDrive and then you're able to share them out. But really the point of OneDrive is more about some of the other awesome features that are in there as well, not just sharing. But let me just show you, there's 5 terabyte of storage per user. So every student, every teacher in the department gets 5 terabyte of storage, which, as we like to joke, is a whole lot of stuff. All right, and it's there for you. And it's really good to let your students know about this 5 terabyte of storage, because that's going to stop them from using what we call shadow IT tools, you know, the storing stuff in Dropbox or storing stuff in Google, etc. If they know they've got all this storage, they tend to keep it more in the department space, and then that way as teachers it's easier for us to manage them. So OneDrive lives in our Office 365 start page, and it's that little blue cloud. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump back into my Office 365 start environment. Now remember what I said, we can just click on our app launcher, no matter where we are, and we can go into one of these apps, but I'm actually going to come into the Office 365 start page. And there it is, right? So OneDrive lives in here, or again, we could find it down here. I'm going to click on OneDrive. And you can see there's all my folders, there are all my files. These are all living in OneDrive. Now, OneDrive, it sits in Office 365 in the cloud, which is actually a real place. As a matter of fact, it's 2 real places. So we have a data center in Sydney where 3 copies of your data is stored, and we have a data center in Melbourne where another 3 copies of your data is stored. So we've basically got 6 copies of our data being backed up. All right, so definitely we've got all that storage, but on top of that, we've also got this massive backup. Now, once upon a time, you might have plugged an external hard drive. You probably didn't, but once upon a time, you might have stuck an external hard drive into your computer and backed things up. But obviously, this is going to do far better than that because it's 6 copies and it's in 2 different locations. All right, so you can see there that I've got my files, my folders and my files. If I come down to one of my files here, so I'm going to click on the ellipses here, it's much more than just storage. Look at what I can do from here. I can open my file, so that would open it into, I can open it down in the app in the full version, or I can open it in the browser in 365. I can share that. I can copy a link. I can manage access. If I've shared that out with someone, I can change that access. I can download a copy. I can delete it, move it, copy it, etc. But what's really exciting is this here, this version history. Now have a look. What's happening is this is actually being updated regularly by other people that I've shared it with, right? And as every time that's happened, I've got now 5 versions of this file. So if Peter, for example, went in and completely destroyed my file and ruined everything, that's okay. I can click here. I can go and visit that version, or I can restore that version so that the main version of this document, or the live version of this document, is actually replaced by an older version. All right, so that's really, really cool, especially when we're working with students who may, delete or destroy something. So I just really want to stress that that's found by clicking on the ellipses and coming down here to version history. Okay, now the other thing that we've got is we've got my files. So when I click on this, these are all my files, but when I click on shared, these are all the files that have been shared with me, right? That is that they belong to somebody else and they're being shared with me. And we're going to have to forgive me about this internet. It's a little bit slow and I apologize. But then I've also got shared by me. Shared by me are files that I have shared with other people. So you can see I've shared this with Peter, I've shared this with Trudy, etc. So what I can do from here is it gives me the chance to be able to look at, do these people still need these documents? Should I, retract the access by going into manage access? So looking at what documents have been shared by me, and also looking at what have been shared with me. So you can see these are all files that have actually been shared with me by other people. So I've got my files and also my shared files. Another thing to remember is we have a recycle bin. At the moment this is empty, but you can delete a file, delete it out of your recycle bin on your machine, but then later you can actually come in and dig it out of the recycle bin in here. So there's just so many backups. And look at this, there's even a further second stage recycle bin. So really, you don't ever need to lose anything ever again. All right, well, at least not your files. Okay. So forgive me, I'm just going to start my presentation again because we haven't finished with OneDrive. Now, there's a thing called the OneDrive Sync client. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through that now, but I do want to stress that you probably want to dig in and grab these slides later, because I've got the setup instructions for the Sync client for your PC and the setup instructions for the Sync client for your Mac. All right, so this will help you set this up, but I'm going to take you through what all that means right now. So if I bring my cursor down, I'm down at the bottom of my screen. I don't know if you guys can actually see if it's just showing you, but we've got File Explorer, which is that little yellow folder, right? So what that looks like, if I type in File Explorer up here, it's that little yellow folder, okay? So if I open File Explorer, you can see here that I've got my OneDrive space, okay, and it says OneDrive Department for Education, okay. So this is my OneDrive files. Remember, I've got 3 copies in Sydney, 3 copies in Melbourne, but hey presto, I've got 1 more copy of my files on my computer, wherever that happens to be. So if you're in Adelaide, obviously, or somewhere in South Australia, we've got 3 copies in 3 copies in New South Wales, 3 copies in Victoria, and 1 copy in South Australia on our local machine. So have a look here. I've got my folders here, desktop, notebooks, etc., and I've got a number of files. If I come back to OneDrive on my machine and click on my files, you can see that that's exactly the same. All right. Now, what I did was I set up my sync client to be able to view these folders and files on my local machine. Now, why is that important? Because if we lose the internet, we want to be able to access all our folders and all our files. So have a look here. Can you see next to some of these, I've got a green tick. Next to some of them, I've got a cloud. And next to some of them, I've got a tick and a little person, or a cloud and a little person. And I want to explain to you what these are. Okay, so by setting up the sync client, these little green ticks mean that those folders are on my local machine and in the cloud, which means if I lose the internet access, no problem, I've got a copy of it installed locally. But the little cloud, well, that obviously means it's only in the cloud. So if I do lose internet access, I'm not able to access those folders, all right, or those files. And these little people here basically mean that these folders have been shared. So it's reminding me that other people have access. So how do we change that? How do we make it so it's no longer just in the cloud? Well, really easy. What we do is we right-click our file, and then we come down here where it says always keep on this device, and look what happens. We get the little sync, and then it turns into a green tick. All right, so now that folder, that file is available to me online and offline, and I can change that back to just online by clicking clear space. All right, now why would we want to have any folders, any files not on our local machine? Because we have 5 terabyte of storage in the cloud, and you probably have a 10th or even a 20th of that size on your local machine. So it's good to get into the habit of files and folders that we don't necessarily need. We keep those in the cloud, which just means when we're out of internet access, we can't access them. So unimportant documents or documents I don't often access, I'll just keep up there in the cloud. But the rest of them, the ones that are really important, I'll right click and I will make sure that I always keep this on my device. Okay, and there you can see I've done absolutely everything. Okay, so the next thing is, how do we add our sync client to our machine? Well, first of all, if you want to access this on a Mac, you need to download the OneDrive app from your Mac App Store. But for the rest of us that are on a Windows 10 machine, make sure that your machine's updated to Windows 10. Find the OneDrive app, okay, which will sit over here. It'll probably just say OneDrive and not Department for Education. You right click. You come down to settings, and then what will happen is it'll open up this, and you click on add an account. Now, when you do the add the account, you type in your school's email address, your LearnLink email address, follow the bouncing ball, and it will sync your OneDrive down to your local machine. Okay, now one more step that I want to draw your attention to though, is this one here. Now this is what's called known folder move. And what known folder move does is it helps you to sync your desktop, your documents and your pictures automatically into OneDrive. So instead of just creating a OneDrive folder, it will actually bring desktop documents and pictures inside, which are the 3 folders that most of us use. And so the link is down here on how to do that. But just to show you how to do it, what we do is after we have set up our sync client, again, we right click and come into settings, and that will open this little dialog box here. We come over to backup, we manage our backup. Forgive me, it's actually down on my other screen, but it'll give you a dialog box and you'll just click yes and it'll sync everything up for you. Okay, so again, It's very easy to do. We just, after we've set up the sync client, we right click, settings, then we click on backup and manage backup, and then you just follow the instructions and it will set that up for you. All right, so I've done a lot of talking and there's a lot of information there. Remember, you have these slides which have little walkthroughs on the links, and you also have the video to revisit if you want to go back and work that out. But I think I will field a couple of questions now, guys.
Hey Troy, there's a few that are coming through, some of which we can deal with later, but things like this, if I have this installed on my home computer to work from home, am I able to not back up non-school stuff department, but just to private storage?
Yeah, so you just, what you would do is you would just create another folder. So you can see here that this is the OneDrive space. So I've got my desktop and my pictures and my documents, but down here I still have my space here called this PC. So remember, I synced my desktop, my documents and my pictures, but I can create folders on my local drive, or I can create folders down here outside of those, and then I can just keep my personal files in there. The other thing you can do is you can set up, by going to Microsoftcom, you can set up a personal OneDrive space, which is outside of the department's management, and you can keep your files in there, and they're also backed up as well.
And we had another question there. If a child was to use the collaborative space in a non-positive way, could you identify who had misused it?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. If a child was to use a collaborative space, you mean, possibly you mean as if a child was to start to share documents with someone else. Those documents, obviously, you can, as we saw before, we can see who shared those documents and who shared them with us and who they've been shared to. But if you mean inside of a space, like if we opened up a document, just like anything else in terms of classroom management, you're going to need to keep an eye on what students are doing. So when we get to something like OneNote, which we're going to look at tomorrow, we can definitely track everything that every student has done. But when we're in the cloud, in Word as a feature, it's a bit difficult to actually track that.
Okay, last question for the moment was just about whether they should be using OneDrive Personal or OneDrive for Business. Obviously, as a department, we're licensed and using OneDrive for Business.
Correct. Yeah, exactly right. So if you want to sync your department files to your computer, well, then you're going to be using the OneDrive for Business app, but your personal ones can be using OneDrive Personal.
Thanks, Troy.
Okay, no worries. All right. So yesterday we did a workshop on Teams. There is a video recording and also some slides available for you around how to use Teams for remote learning. What we're going to talk about now, though, is using our Office 365 back in this Teams space. So the thing about Teams is Teams does a whole lot. And here on this slide, you can see you can you set your notifications, you can have chats, you can have video calls, you've got a command box, you can create teams, manage teams. There's a whole lot that Teams can do. And again, I want to stress, go back and explore that workshop that we did yesterday. But for those of you that already have, I want to show you how Office 365 comes down into your team space. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to jump into a team that I have created. All right, and this is the one that we looked at yesterday, which is called 2020 Sturt Street. All right, and when we come into this space, Office 365 already lives here. Okay, so when we come into, for example, the file space, this is where we can store all our files. Okay, but the other thing we can do is we can actually create a document inside of Teams, inside of Word, right? So when I click Word document here, I'm going to call this webinar 2.1. And so for my department staff, if you guys want to jump into this document now as well, so we're inside the general channel of that team, I'm going to insert a table, and you can see it looks just like our word space that we saw before, in normal old Office 365, except now it's inside of Teams. Now, the cool thing about this is we don't need to share anymore. People can just access this because they're already part of the team. So instead of having to share this out, my friends from the department should be able to jump straight into this now. Here they come. All right, so I've got Cindy's in there as well. So guys, 5 favourite foods to eat, 5 favourite holiday destinations. And now, again, I don't have to go through all that sharing nonsense. It's all just there for them to be able to access. So as I start to put mine in, we can be working on that document at the same time. I also like a bit of Asian food. So we can all be working now. You can have hundreds of children on this document together. Not that you probably would, but you can, okay? All on this document at the same time. Okay, and here comes Trudy. Trudy's in the document as well. You can see up here, I can see who's inside the document, or I can hover over and be looking at it from there. All right, so that's how we bring our Office documents inside. Now I'm going to jump out into those. Ladies can keep operating inside that document. That's fine if that's what they want to do. But you look inside here, I can create new Excel workbooks, PowerPoint presentations, OneNote notebooks. I can even create forms for Excel in there as well. Now where it gets really cool though is over here with this add a tab button. When I click on this, I can create tabs across the top of my Teams using my Office 365 apps, right? So I can do things like Word documents. I can bring in my Microsoft Stream, which is my video space. I can bring in PowerPoint, but broader than that, I can bring in things like YouTube clips and a whole heap of other third-party apps as well. So I do, if you missed our Teams workshop, please go back and have a look because this will make better sense to you. But I do want to stress that our whole Office 365 environment can happen inside a team. So we can be chatting, we can be playing in our class notebook, setting assignments, etc., and having our full Office 365 experience. All right, now remember I showed you the files. So these are our shared files that everybody that's a member of the team is able to access. But look over here, I've got another files button. Yours may be under your ellipses, your 3 dots, but when I click on that files button, look what I've got. I've got all my Microsoft Teams files, so all the files that are relevant to me in Teams, but I've also got my personal OneDrive living inside Teams as well. So I can be uploading files into the Teams, uploading files from my computer into OneDrive. I can be sharing those out. I can be opening it in the desktop version or in the local version of OneDrive, etc. But it's all coming inside Teams, which is really, really good. So when we're thinking about collaboration and being able to make our content available to our students remotely by doing it inside of Teams, we can. It's not just about Teams. We can be using PowerPoint. We can be using Excel. We can be using all these other tools as well. So again, what we would do is if we're wanting to share a document, I'm going to come back into my team over here. This time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a PowerPoint. All right, and I'm going to call this webinar PowerPoint. Now what I can do here is just like in PowerPoint, I can create a number of slides. I could be assigning those slides, all right, to different students. All right, so I could say this slide here is for Terry. This slide here is for, this slide here is for Mary, etc. And so the students can actually be working on collaborative assignments, you know, whether that's group work or whole class work, etc. And I can, as a teacher, go back and look at what everyone's doing, and they can also look at what each other are doing. Thing you've got to remember though is once they're in here, they have access to the full document just like you and I do. All right, so there is some instruction around for the students around etiquette and manners and that kind of stuff as well. And if this isn't doing everything that I want it to do, because it is an online version, I can open it in the desktop app and be continuing on. All right, I might field some questions before we move on.
Okay. Thanks, Troy. Somebody noted that when they use OneNote with their students, 25 students, that it can often lag. Is this the same for Word Online?
Well, that really depends on if you're on the same network or not. So if you're sitting in a classroom and you've got 25 children on the document, you're trying to use the limited Wi-Fi points, then it could possibly lag, of course. But if they're spread out across the suburb or across the state, then it's going to depend on their individual network connections. So those with good network connections are going to see it moving much faster. Those with slower network connections are going to see it moving slower. But the best advice I can give you is make sure that you stay in the online version, that is either in Teams or in the browser, and you will get a better collaborative, immediate sort of experience.
Okay, and just two more. Somebody asked, can you add a tab for folders? So I guess folders that contain files.
Oh gosh, no one's ever asked me that before. I don't know that you can. I think it's only possible to throw in an actual app. You can bring in SharePoint libraries, but I know that's really not what you're asking. So as far as I know, no, you'll need to jump into files and find it. But what you can do is you can share a link out to the chat. So for example, whether it's a folder or a file, what I do is I click here, and then what I want to do is I want to copy the link. Okay, and then I come out into my posts and I might say, hey guys, here's this here. Okay, and then I throw the link in. I throw that in there, and then that link will actually take them to that file, but it would also take them to the folder. So that's probably what I would do. But to make that a little bit less sort of, very, I want to say linky, but you know what I'm trying to say. What I would probably do is I would probably cut that, and I would highlight my word, throw in the link. Okay, and then it becomes a hyperlink. So that can link to a file or a folder. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. And then just a comment that I want to make, and I'm sure those that are watching have probably found it. What we found in our environment is that we can't actually edit Word documents currently within Teams. So we had a look online, and it looks like due to resourcing and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. So
is that correct?
Exactly right, Cindy. So what's happening at the moment is the sheer volume of users trying to access online, whether it's Office 365 or even things outside of Microsoft, means that a lot of things have been slowed down to try to accommodate a lot of this usage, right? So for example, if you're finding that things aren't operating at the moment inside Teams, like you're saying there with the Word document, then you can open it in the browser and continue on. But this is only a temporary problem. It's certainly being addressed at the moment. Even OneNote at the moment, outside of education, so this doesn't affect us, but outside of education, OneNote is not working at all inside Teams. Wow. Because basically Microsoft has to look and say, we have to dial some things back to be able to make, more important things work. Because as you can imagine, there's just, so many more millions of people trying to use our stuff at the moment. So be patient with us. It will, there will be corrections on those, but at the moment it's an intentional thing just to try and make it easier for everyone to access.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, any other questions before we move on?
No, I think that's it. Or there was one that says, if you give students access to your file, does that mean they have access to other files in your folder? Now, as far as I'm aware, Troy, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a member of that team, the student should be able to see all the files there. Is that correct?
Yeah, so inside Teams, that's true. If you make, anyone you bring into a team has access to all the files unless you create private channels. When you create a private channel, then those channels can be hidden. But I think that question is more about if I share my folder from OneDrive, which is my personal space, can they see everything else? No, they can only see what you share with them. So if you share a folder, they can see everything in that folder. If you share a file, they can only see that file. So just be very careful what you share, and just make sure you only share what you want to share. But remember, you can go back and you can revoke access if you, inverted commas, overshare. Okay?
Right, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so looking at this, This is where we're sort of going to go from here, and I talked about this yesterday. We have this website, aka.ms/Microsoft Remote Learning. That is Microsoft's one-stop shop for everything that you need to know about delivering online lessons and using the Microsoft platform. So there's recordings of webinars, there's support documents, all kinds of things. There's case studies on what other schools are doing. Please jump in. There's also an email address that you can fire your questions off to. The next thing I want to draw your attention to, support.office.com/education. This is online support for things around Office 365, but with an education lens. So if you want to know about, using OneNote with your students, or you want to know about using Teams, or this is a really good place for you to go, but it is documentation. It's not videos or walkthroughs, it's documents. And the last one, of course, was the online courses, which was education.microsoft.com, which we talked about a little earlier today. We do have a newsletter, which is available to you, aka.ms/MEC newsletter. Type that in, sign up. I think it comes out once a month or once a fortnight, but you won't get bombarded with other things as well. But this will help you stay in touch with the latest, greatest features and what's new in the Microsoft space. So again, the main link I want to share with you is that one, that aka.ms/Microsoft Remote Learning. And then maybe, Cindy, did you want to have a chat and let everybody know how they access the slides and the recordings as they are added?
Yes, absolutely. Some people have already asked that. So if you click on published, that'll show you the link that we're going to be publishing everything to. But if you, we'll try to get some comms sent out as well later with the links to everything. It'll be a link to the recording as well as all the slides.
Awesome, great. All right, so any final questions before we wrap up for today?
No, I think that's it. We did get a few come in right at the end, but what I think we'll do, Troy, is I'll send you some that we can't answer, and then we'll publish those Q&As on the same link as well.
Okay, great. All right, no worries.
Great, thank you so much.
No, you're most welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's Microsoft Remote Learning webinar. Again, a big thank you for Troy Waller for his presentation. He's fantastic at what he does. Please join us tomorrow for OneNote and Class Notebook. Don't forget, we're making all of these webinars available through EDIT along with the slides. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.